No, so as you said, during the last Trump administration, US put 10% duty on aluminium into the US, and the Biden administration kept that duty. So we had quite some experience in the market from that period. I think what will happen if they put the 25% additional tariff from Canada and Mexico is that we will see changes in trade flows, first and foremost. And then potentially also some changes to the aluminium premiums in the different markets. But most importantly, it's the trade flows that we will see changing.
How do they change?
Well, typically, I mean, we are speculating a lot now. It's too early to say what will actually happen. But the US is very much dependent on import of aluminium. They are importing a lot of aluminium from Canada. Of course, if there is an additional duty on Canadian metal, that metal will probably go to different market, and then there will be other producers then supplying the US instead. So these kind of changes in trade flow we will see, but not necessarily a change in the pricings.
Which other producers would be supplying the US markets if there is that tariff on the Canadian border?
I think that's a bit difficult to say at the current situation. But Europe could potentially supply, and there are other suppliers as well.
But that's costly, isn't it? As we talk about more shipping to get this product into the US market versus just across the border from Canada.
Well, I think, as I said, the US is still dependent on the import of aluminium and imports from a lot of other regions in addition to Canada. So the transportation cost is fully manageable within the pricing of aluminium.
I know nothing about Middle Eastern aluminium production facilities companies, but I do know that your predecessor went that way as CFO. I just think it just made me think, and we had a very good relationship with Paul as well, as we hope to with you, Trond. But does this mean there are new competitors on the block? Does this mean that the traditional competitors we might have looked to Northern Europe and Russia and what have you, is there a new set of competitive dynamics going on with where certain parties see growth in your market?
No, so we see some growth in primary aluminium production globally. China has a cap on the production of 45 million tons, and they seem to stick with that cap. So we will probably not see more growth in China. But we see growth in Indonesia based on coal-fired power plants. We see growth in India also based on coal.
Can I just go back one stage to the answer? Rewind your answer. We see growth in Indonesia based on the growth of coal-fired plants.
Yes.
That's a disaster for the world that the Indonesians are still growing their coal-fired plants, isn't it?
Yes. If you look at
which is ironic, given you've just spent at least 4 of your answers telling us about your green transition.
Well, I think that is the development that we see, that most of the growth in aluminium production will be based on coal-fired power plants in Indonesia, in India, and the Middle East, then mostly based on gas.
But the irony is not lost on you, us, or our audience, that you are driving ahead regardless with your green transition story, despite all the concerns about tariffs, despite all the concerns. And you've told me that your customers are also happy to pay the green premium. And yet you've said twice now, and I'm actually quite sad now. I was really optimistic until you just said most of the growth we are seeing is coming on the back of growth in coal-fired plants. And if there's one thing I know from the multiple COPs I've been to, that the bad cop out there is coal.
No, and that's right. And of course, for the whole industry to decarbonize, then it's a lot more renewable energy that is needed. But that is a long transition that will take quite a long time for the whole industry.